What does $179 actually get you when you buy the Samsung Galaxy A12? Well, in this video, we're gonna find out. What's going on, guys? Kalipis Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're gonna be taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy A12 and seeing what kind of value it provides for the cost. So let's get started. So this phone has a 6.5-inch PLS IPS LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 82.1%. We got a water drop notch here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 8 megapixels. I'm not a huge fan of water drop notches. They usually look really outdated and old, and make the phone in general just look a little cheaper, but on this phone it doesn't really look that bad. The bezels aren't the thinnest I've seen, but they're definitely not bad either. This phone overall, despite having slightly thicker bezels and a water drop notch, does have a pretty decent, sleeker, modern look to it. It really does help that the phone is thinner overall, and I'm a big fan of this back. This material has a really cool texture, and there are absolutely no fingerprints on this. It hasn't been picking them up at all. I don't know if it even does. So that's a really good thing about this phone. I think overall the features of it, despite not being perfect, do all contribute to giving this phone a nice, modern, unique appearance. Now I do have the brightness at 100% right now, and I would say despite only being 720p, the display looks really good. If you're doing something like content consumption, this display quality combined with the larger screen is really going to help you out a lot and give you a really good experience. If you're doing something like streaming videos or maybe even reading, you'll be able to see those details a lot closer up than you would on a phone that might not be as big. And having a high quality display like this is going to make the colors and everything else just look better. This phone is getting 64 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. Now keep in mind the specific phone that we're looking at in my hand is the international variant, and the US model only has 32 gigabytes. Now there's no wireless charging on this phone, which is kind of expected since wireless charging is typically found on more high-end phones. I have seen it on more mid-level phones, but this is more of an entry-level phone in my opinion. For security features, this phone pretty much has it all. We got a fingerprint scanner right here in the best place possible on the power key. This is so good because you're going to be probably touching this key anyway to wake up the display, unless you have tap to wake on, which is a completely different story. But still, being able to wake up the display and unlock the phone in one move is really nice. Let me show you. And just like that, it's unlocked and the display is awake. One more time, just so you can see how fast this is. And there we go. So this fingerprint scanner is not only placed super conveniently, but it's really fast and responsive, so you're not going to have any trouble unlocking your phone. In addition to that, in case your finger is dirty or you're wearing a glove or something, this phone also has face unlock, so you have both options. We got a quad camera setup here on the back with a 48 megapixel rear camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So this phone, despite being only an entry level phone, pretty much has it all. The ultra wide camera is really useful if you're trying to take a group photo, a picture of a large object, a room, so many different applications. The macro camera can be nice to have too. And of course the depth sensing camera is great for portrait mode. In addition to that, take a look at this photo taken by the rear camera of this phone. As you can see here, this is such high quality, especially for just being an entry-level phone. With this phone, you're going to be able to take some real good pictures. The colors are balanced really nice, the image quality is good, and the lighting is handled really well. Overall, completely exceeding my expectations for a phone at this level. Now for video quality, it might not be as good as the photos. This phone can shoot in quality up to 1080p in both the rear and front cameras, which is not bad in and of itself, but the quality of the video is a little bit lower than you might want for something more professional. Now if you're shooting videos just for casual purposes, something like Snapchat where the quality doesn't really matter, it's going to be perfectly fine. But for something more professional, if it is really important for you to get the highest quality videos you can, I would suggest looking at other devices because this might not be quite enough. Now also keep in mind that although this phone can shoot videos in 1080p, you'll only be able to view them on the device in 720p because that is the resolution of the display. So you are limited in that sense, but you can shoot 1080p videos with the phone, so you'll be able to see them in 1080p on other devices. Internally, this phone is getting 4GB of RAM with the MediaTek Helio P35 processor. I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on the phone and it came back with a single core score of 169 and a multi-core score of 965, so not too bad, but I would say in this exact price range, there are some phones that are a lot more powerful than this. Even though it's an entry-level phone, I would say this is getting to the top of entry-level phones as far as the price range goes, so I did sort of expect a little bit better. The Motorola Moto G Power 2021, for example, is quite a bit more powerful than this phone processor-wise and has a lot of the same features. And there are several more phones where this is the case as well. So I would say to keep that in mind. If processing power is one of the more important factors for you, you might want to look at other devices because you can do better. Another thing about the processor to be aware of is, again, this phone specifically is the international variant of the Samsung Galaxy A12 that gets 4GB of RAM. The US variant has the same processor, but it only gets 3GB of RAM. So be aware of that difference. This specific difference isn't like the storage difference. It's really not that big a deal, but it's still gonna matter just a little bit. So don't forget that. Now the battery is a real big strong point for this phone. It has a 5000 milliamp hour battery. This supports 15-watt fast charging. So you're gonna get lots of battery life out of this throughout the day. You're probably not even gonna have to charge your phone throughout the day unless you're using it a lot. And down the road, when the phone's battery starts to degrade, since this battery is so large, you're not gonna notice it as soon as with something like the iPhone 12 that has about half the battery size as this. So if you prefer to get a phone and keep it for as long as you possibly can, something like this that has a large battery and is gonna last longer over time is gonna be a big benefit for you. And of course, the fast charging doesn't hurt either. Allowing your phone to charge more in a shorter period of time is always a big help, especially if you have more of an active lifestyle where you're not always near a charger for very long. This is gonna help out quite a bit. Now in conclusion, what kind of value does the Samsung Galaxy A12 provide for the money? Well, I think this phone does actually provide a lot of value. You're getting a large, high-quality display that's going to be great for stuff like content consumption. Whether you're watching videos or reading, even viewing photos or playing a game, this display is going to be really good for all that. The phone itself has a really nice, modern design. Even though it has thicker bezels and a hole-punch front-facing camera, it does look really nice. And it looks unique too. It really does stand out in my opinion. I'm especially a huge fan of this back. I think this material is so cool. And in addition to that, it feels nice too. It doesn't have a ton of weight to it, but it doesn't feel cheap at all. The materials don't feel like the typical cheap breakable plastic that you see in normal entry-level phones. This phone does feel solid and sturdy, so I really do like that about it. The camera is really impressive too. This phone can take really high quality photos, especially with the rear camera. Video might not be the best, but if you like to take really high quality photos for something like social media or maybe a website, whatever you're doing, I think that this phone's camera is gonna be really satisfactory for that. The processing power isn't the best, but it's definitely acceptable. And the huge battery that comes in this phone more than makes up for the processor. So I would say if you're looking for an entry-level phone with lots of really nice features, like an ultra-wide camera, a large screen, fingerprint scanner on the power button, and much more, and aren't too concerned about the processing power, then the Samsung Galaxy A12 is going to provide a lot of value for you. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.